Sorcerer! What am I doing with the Sorcerer? Nothing. Sorcerer's fine. End of video. No, of course not. Of course not. No, but I do think the Sorcerer is actually kind of fine-ish. As a full arcane spellcaster, it is significantly above average, but that's only because like the average is spread, like all those get rid of the marshals, and I think the Sorcerer would become average. It's not overpowered, except in as far as all spellcasters are kind of overpowered. But that's not necessarily a problem. Here's what I think about the Sorcerer. I think stylistically, if any class were to have spell points, it would be the Sorcerer. Intuitively, it makes the most sense. They have the Sorcerer is the natural spellcaster. You have sort of inner reserves of magical power that you draw on. You don't learn your magic. You kind of figure out how your pre-existing magic works. So, I think it makes a sort of sense to have spell points be a Sorcerer thing. But spell points, as they are described in the 5th edition DMG, are busted. They're terrible because they allow you to spam first level spells pretty much all day, which full casters can almost do if you're following normal adventuring day guidelines. You're probably not going to run out of spell slots, especially the Sorcerer, who can get spell slots back by spending sorcery points. I think meta magic as a mechanic it's a good idea, poorly implemented. And so what I would probably want to do if I were redesigning the Sorcerer from scratch is I would give them a spell point system, have meta magic be another way to use spell points, to spend more spell points when you are casting a spell and you get additional effects on those spells. In that way, the Sorcerer would be able to sort of like mold and design and decide how much oomph they want to put into their magic as they cast it, making them the most versatile caster. But here's the thing. You can't just have D&D's spells with spell points. It doesn't work. Either you have way too many and first level spells are too cheap so you can just spam them out all day, or you have too few, and that feels really bad too, because then you're basically choosing, like, do I want to cast my one big spell for the day, or do I want to cast more than one spell in the day? That kind of thing. So here's what I would do. What would help alleviate the problems of the spell point system. So this is me redesigning the spell point system for the purposes of using it on a Sorcerer. You would have what was it called? A point and cap system, pool and cap system. I don't remember what it's called. There is a term for this mechanic where basically the majority of your daily spell points is not accessible to you right away. You have a small pool of spell points, enough to cast, say, your biggest spell, and maybe like a handful more. And then in your pool, you have, say, 3 times that. And then during short rests or between encounters or whatever pacing you have, you get to sort of siphon off points from your reserve pool and make them accessible again. So what that does is it limits the amount of power that you can output per fight. So for an individual encounter, you don't have access to your full daily repertoire, which means that that also helps limit the issue. One of the issues with running single encounter days. Now, D&D 5th edition is not designed to run single encounter days, but it still happens. It still happens a lot. It's something that can come up just sort of with the natural pace of the narrative. Like, it can make sense for the characters to only have one encounter in the day, but the system does not like it. It's like the whole point of the adventuring day mechanic is to sort of wear you down and make you spend resources over the course of the day so that you can't be at full throttle all the time. With single encounter days, You can be full throttle for every turn that matters. So limiting that somewhat, I think, is beneficial. Since it does come up, regardless of the fact that you're not really supposed to do it that way. So what else? You have the point and pool system. I think sorcerers need a lot more unique spells. At the moment, the sorcerer spell list kind of feels like wizard light. It's like more or less the wizard spells, like plus 1 or 2 sort of token sorcerer spells, and then minus all the really, really good wizard spells. Not all of them, most of the really, really good wizard spells that sorcerers just for some reason don't get. I said before in my fighter rework video that that I don't think that spells above 5th level should exist. I think that should be like the cap of power. So in keeping with that, I think we cap out spells at 5th level. And this would go forward to all my other caster videos. Cap all casters at 5th level spells. And then after that, you just start getting more spell points at a fairly slow rate. I think the spell point graph should go like, we'll start over here. Should go like up a little bit and then sort of plateau and only gradually increase. But you would gain more spells known and more ways to use spells. The Sorcerer has a fantastic in for this. Like a way to expand Sorcerer, just the natural solution is give them more meta magics. That way you are more versatile with your spells. Give them the ability to put more than one meta magic on a spell. So that they can really like start to like piece these things together and make it this like monstrosity of a spell, even though they are not learning new spells. It kind of feels like they are because they're able to combine things in ways that you couldn't before. So I think that would be the focus of the Sorcerer. Give them spell points, work meta magic into spell points, and then have this system, this point and pool system where like say 3/4 of your spell points are not available to you right now. You have to rest a moment between encounters to sort of bring some of that potential out and make it available to you again in your like active pool of spell points. Say anything else? I don't think so. I think that's more or less it. Yeah, the Sorcerer is pretty straightforward because like you're just a caster. You cast spells. So the majority of the class design is going to be in spell design. And so as long as you have enough differentiation from the Wizard, which I think the PHB Sorcerer does not, then you can get away with having kind of a light, simple class itself. Because lest we forget, spells are class features. And so really, there are 2 chapters in the PHB, spellcasting and the spells, that are just more class features for, 2/3 of the classes. So you would need to really look at spell design for the Sorcerer. Also, point of order, I think the Sorcerer, out of all the classes, except maybe like Sorcerer and Warlock, I think, are probably the best candidates for the Blaster Caster archetype. This is an archetype that a lot of people like, that they want to play, they want to see, they want to be a thing in the game. And it's not really a supported archetype in 5th edition. There are Blaster spells, but they're not very good. I think the Sorcerer probably should be sort of the premier Blaster caster, where you're not really putting down control spells so much. And this could help differentiate your spell list from the Wizard list, because the Wizard list, lots of control spells. I think the Sorcerer list, fewer control spells, but man, you just throw down the hurt in like area effect, high damage spells. I think that should be, that could be like the sort of core differentiation between the Sorcerer and the Wizard. The Wizard's going to have better control, harder control, more control. The Sorcerer puts down damage numbers to help eliminate enemies as fast as possible. Like a Sorcerer control spell is going to be very soft. like a wall of fire. You can walk through that wall of fire. It's not going to stop you, but it will burn you on the way through because it's a sorcerer and it's going to do damage. I think most sorcerer spells should do damage in some way. They should be like damaging versions of wizard spells. And that would give the sorcerer this sort of more specific identity rather than just being wizard light. But yeah. Sorcerer. Cheers.